I stared at the email for a full minute before opening it. Because deep down, I already knew. This was a moment that would define everything. If it said no, I'd go back to surviving. But if it said yes, then the life my father said I wasn't worth would suddenly be within reach. And I didn't know if I was ready for that. If you saw part 2, you know. I applied for the Hawthorne Fellowship. Something I never believed I could win. After weeks of waiting, the answer was finally in front of me. And all I had to do was open it. My hands were shaking. I clicked. The screen loaded slowly. Too slowly. Then, the words appeared. Congratulations. I stopped breathing. Read it again. Then again. Just to make sure it was real. I had won. Out of thousands of applicants, 20 were selected. And somehow, I was one of them. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. I just sat there, trying to process the fact that everything had just changed. Because for the first time in my life, someone had invested in me. But the real shock was what came next. Attached to the email was a document. Hawthorne Fellows had options. Research placements. Mentorship tracks. And one line that made my heart stop. Transfer opportunities to partner universities. I scrolled. List of schools. Elite. Unreachable. Impossible. Until I saw it. Briarwood University. The same school my father chose for Chloe. The same school he said I wasn't worth. And now? I could go there. Not because someone gave me permission, but because I earned it. I should have called my parents. Told them everything. Proved them wrong. But I didn't. Because something inside me said, not yet. This wasn't about validation. This was about something else. Control. For the first time in my life, I had it. So I made a decision. I transferred to Briarwood. And told no one. And that decision made what happened next even more powerful. The campus looked exactly like Chloe's photos. Perfect lawns. Stone buildings. Students who looked like they belonged. For a second, I felt out of place. Like I had stepped into someone else's life. Then I remembered. I earned this. Every inch of it. And for the first time, I walked forward without hesitation. I didn't tell anyone where I came from. Not my classmates. Not my professors. Because I didn't want sympathy. I wanted to prove something. Not to my parents. But to myself. So I kept my head down. Worked. Studied. Built something quietly. While my family had no idea. It happened in the library. I was sitting at a table. Focused. Calm. Finally feeling like I belonged. Then I heard a voice. Hannah? I froze. Slowly looked up. And there she was. Chloe. Standing there. Completely confused. How are you here? She asked. I closed my book. I transferred. Her expression shifted. That doesn't make sense, she said. Mom and Dad didn't say anything. They don't know. Silence. Then she asked the one question that mattered. How are you paying for this? Scholarship. That was all I said. Because that was all she needed to hear. And that moment? That's when everything started unraveling. My phone started vibrating before I even left the building. Missed calls. Texts. Notifications. Chloe had already told them. Of course she had. And then, one message stood out. From my father. Call me. I didn't answer immediately. For once. I let them wait. I called the next morning. You're at Briarwood, he asked. Yes. You transferred without telling us? I didn't think it mattered. Silence. Then. Of course it matters. You're my daughter. The words felt strange. Like they didn't belong to me. Am I? I asked. He didn't respond right away. Then. How are you paying for it? Hawthorne Fellowship. Pause. That's extremely selective. Yes. And then he said something that told me everything I needed to know. We'll already be there for Chloe's graduation. We can talk then. Not. We're proud of you. Not. We're coming for you too. Just. Chloe. Again. I ended the call. And for the first time, I didn't feel hurt. I felt clear. Because now I understood something important. This wasn't about them changing. It was about me not needing them to. The months that followed were different. Not easier. But stronger. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was building. Honors program. Top grades. Recognition. And slowly, something started becoming real. Something I never planned for. Because the better I performed, the more one possibility started rising to the surface. Valedictorian. I didn't say it out loud. Didn't tell anyone. But deep down, I knew. If I kept going, there was a chance. And if that happened, everything would come full circle. Because my parents were already planning to be at graduation. They came to graduation that day with flowers in their hands. Smiling. Proud. Excited. For my sister. They sat in the front row. Center seats. My father already holding his camera up. Ready for her moment. They had no idea. They weren't there for her. And in a few minutes, everything they believed about me was about to collapse. If you've been following this story, you already know. My father told me I wasn't worth investing in. Paid for my twin sister Chloe's dream school. And left me to figure everything out on my own. So I did. 2 jobs. No support. No safety net. Until one opportunity changed everything. The Hawthorne Fellowship. Which brought me to the same school my sister attended. Without my family knowing. And now, we were all here. At graduation. But they still didn't know the truth. The morning was bright. Warm. Perfect. The kind of day people remember forever. Families filled the stadium. Cameras. Flowers. Laughter. I walked in through the faculty entrance. Not with the general graduates. But through a separate path. Black gown. Gold honors sash. Hawthorne medallion resting against my chest. Each step felt steady. Controlled. Because this moment? I had already lived it in my head 100 times. I saw them immediately. Front row. Center. My father sat upright. Focused. Camera ready. My mother held a bouquet of white roses. Chloe sat just behind them with her friends. Laughing. Relaxed. They looked so certain. so sure of how this day would go. And for a moment, I just watched them. Not with anger. Not with sadness. Just distance. Because they didn't know me anymore. And in a few minutes, they were going to realize that. The ceremony began. Music played. Faculty walked in. Graduates filled the seats. Names started being called. One by one. The crowd clapped. Families cheered. Time stretched. My heart stayed steady. Not racing. Not nervous. Because I wasn't waiting. I already knew. Then the energy shifted. The university president stepped forward. Holding a card. The crowd quieted. This year, he began. We recognize a student whose journey represents resilience, excellence, and determination. My father leaned forward slightly. My mother adjusted the flowers in her lap. Chloe smiled. Expecting. Waiting. Certain. And then, he said it. Please welcome this year's valedictorian. My father raised his camera higher. Hannah Brooks. Silence. Then confusion. Then realization. My father's camera slowly lowered. My mother's hands froze around the flowers. Chloe's smile disappeared. And for the first time, they looked at me. Not past me. Not through me. At me. I stood. Every step toward the stage felt quiet. Not dramatic. Not rushed. Just certain. Because this wasn't about proving them wrong anymore. This was about knowing I was right. I reached the podium. Looked out at thousands of people. Then found them again. Front row. Still frozen. Still trying to understand. I took a breath. And began. My father once told me I wasn't worth the investment. The stadium went completely silent. I didn't rush. Didn't soften it. I believed him, for a moment. A small pause. Because when someone you trust defines your value, it's hard not to accept it. I looked at the crowd. But then I learned something. My voice steadied. Value isn't something someone else gives you. It's something you build. Through every early morning. Every setback. Every moment you choose not to quit. I glanced at my parents again. So if anyone here has ever been told they're not enough. I let the silence sit. You are. And you don't need anyone's permission to prove it. The applause started slow. Then grew. Then exploded. People stood. Cheered. Clapped louder than anything I had ever heard. But I wasn't focused on them. I was watching my parents. And for the first time in my life. They didn't look certain. They looked shaken. When everything ended. People gathered. Photos. Celebrations. I didn't go to them. I walked toward the exit. Calm. Because I didn't need anything from them anymore. But they came to me. Hannah. I stopped. Turned. My father stood there. Still holding those flowers. Not sure what they meant anymore. I didn't know, he said. I nodded. I know. That doesn't change anything. My mother stepped forward. We're proud of you. I looked at her. You weren't there when it mattered. Silence. Chloe stood behind them. Quiet. For once. Not the center of attention. My father swallowed. I made a mistake. I held his gaze. Yes. You did. There was nothing left to argue. Nothing left to fix. Because this wasn't about forgiveness. It was about truth. And I had already moved forward. But I didn't. I turned. And walked away. Not angry. Not broken. Just free. Because the girl they didn't invest in built something they could never take credit for. And that was worth everything. If you've ever been underestimated, comment below. What would you have done?
Thanking you for watching Revenge Echo channel. Like, subscribe and comment where you are watching from.